This is MJ. I love comics, and right now I want to talk about Captain America Comics number 5, specifically the Captain America stories found therein. So, gosh, this one was a really hard one for me to, get through. I was sick, way sicker than I've been in a long time, so I ended up reading the comic, or, the several different stories in the comic over several days, and I came away with an interesting an interesting conclusion. I was excited about it. I was cynical. I was kind of all over the map. But I just wanted to pull attention to some negative things first, and then I'll talk more about the positive. So this is art and editorial, all by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. I want to know who was responsible for this. They're flying to this, I think, a fictional island, Kunoa, because I don't know geography. I don't know Hawaii. I've never been there. Who knows if I ever will. Anyway, but there's this really cool illustration or drawing in the comic of this plane flying that James Barnes and Steve Rogers are on, and all of a sudden it cuts away, and there's this description saying what this plane is doing, but it's like a wing and a pod under it. So I don't know if they didn't finish illustrating it, if they ran out of time or whatever, but it's just real weird because you get to see a mountain range, a volcano, you get to see this bay with these ships in it, and all of that's rendered fairly nicely. I can see where the sky ends and the water begins, and it all basically makes sense. But just this thing, I stared at it for maybe a minute trying to figure out what exactly this weird wing was, and I guess it's supposed to be the plane. It's just drawn really terribly. So for all those who think Jack King Kirby is their god, or the god of drawing, maybe Joe Simon drew this, I don't know, but Kirby's certainly not perfect, and anybody who pretends he is, you're being silly, and I guess here's some proof to show you that he isn't. So I'm not doing that to be malicious. I'm just doing that because I think it's kind of the right thing to do. It's best to keep things and people in proper perspective. Something else I kind of got a laugh out of was there's a page where there's an appeal to the Sentinels of Liberty, and actually one of the full comic stories was about the Sentinels of Liberty basically being kind of like the Hitler Youth, if you think about it, and ratting out people to Captain America and Bucky, who they thought were German sympathizers, Bund sympathizers, or part of the German Bund, which was a group of people who were loyal to Germany, not the U.S., and tried to. I don't know how extensive they were, if they were spies or what kind of support they gave to Germans during World War II, or the German state over World War II. But one of them, it's kind of a diverse group. There's a girl in there. There's a chubby guy. There's a pig-faced boy, and then there's a like a caricature blackface style boy. You see characters drawn like this in other cultures, like in manga there's characters like this, where they're black and they're drawn with like black skin. People think that one of the guys in Dragon Ball Z is this type of character, but he's not. I believe I'm correct in that. But like Shotaro Ishinomori in his Cyborg 009 manga, which is pretty famous, has a black character, and he is drawn similarly, where his skin is very dark, but then he has white lips. And I've heard people debate that it's a style, that it's an antiquated style, but that it wasn't necessarily malicious. I've heard people say that it's basically like drawing someone in blackface who's actually black. So I don't know where you define that or how you call that out, but as much as a SJW as people like to make Kirby out to be in the modern age, and he does even have I don't remember if it's something Cap says or if it's something in the caption somewhere that's very much pro social justice, but I think the right kind. He had his flaws, and I'm just kind of once again pointing those out. Like I said, I was feeling a little cynical during part of reading this, so I thought I would point those things out and share them because I think it's important. It's a shocking image. It made me laugh a little bit because I was just so surprised to see it there, and I thought that it was good of Marvel to leave it there. I'm sure there are people who are way more into comics than I've been and have been for decades, who know that that's there. And I wonder if there was debate as to whether or not that should be taken out, and if I think the right side of history won by getting that to remain in there, because I think ignoring these things is foolish, and acknowledging that they were there and then being able to have a conversation about them is more important than not risking offending somebody. I mean, if you think about it, Kirby and Simon are both Jewish, right? So they would, potentially would have been oppressed, potentially, but they also would have been in like Jewish neighborhoods, immigrant neighborhoods. But seeing little brother there, little man, well, I don't mean it like that, like the little brother, the little black guy there, like as part of the Sentinels of America, or Sentinels of Liberty, is kind of like them saying, like, yeah, even a colored person can join us in being for liberty and can be a friend and ally of Captain America. And Captain America would have no problem giving him a chuck on the shoulder, or wrapping his arm around him, and encouraging him to do good and to be righteous and whatnot, just like Cap and Bucky. So it's a very inclusive image. The idea behind it is, anyway. It's just the execution of it is not so great for 2020. But to me, there's an interesting sense of dehumanization. Now that I'm talking about this blackface character, I want to kind of transition and talking about like all the Nazis or Nazi sympathizers who were shown in this book, because we get to see that there are good Germans in this, because there's a German family, dad and his son, that are involved with the Bund. Or the Bund, they don't want to be involved with the Bund, but the Bund members like beat up the dad and stuff because they want him to be part of it. And like there's nuance, because like not only can there be a good Negro, there can be good Germans, and I don't know, maybe one of those other people is supposed to be Japanese in the Sentinels of Liberty. But it's interesting that being a visual medium, and I've talked about this before, but like the inhuman features of the characters get to be exploited to show them as villainous or evil or vile or wretched or not good in some way. Steve and Bucky are a couple of good-looking lads. They're strong and healthy Americans, and then it even goes so far as we get to see something that I think is probably very prescient, which is this American flyer who went over and flew for France. He's being held by the Vichy French right now, and he is supposed to... They're petitioning for him to be let go because he's being held as a prisoner of war, and it's been some time, and apparently both Steve and Bucky knew him before he went over and flew and was shooting down Nazis, but he's been in prison, like I said, and he almost looks like somebody who came out of the Holocaust, out of a concentration camp. Like, he still has his hair, and he's not quite as skeletal, but he's pretty darn close. And it's, I don't know. I know the world was a lot harsher before, so I don't know if starving people to death, like, was being done at certain points in the concentration camps. I only say that because, not that they were treating them well, but, for a time, there were phases. I guess let me just simplify by saying there were phases in how the concentration camps, which were always murderous and always demonic, in how they processed people. And by process, I mean murder, systematically murdered people. And by the end of the war, when people were freed, and I say people because concentration camps were not exclusively full of Jewish people. There were gypsies, homosexuals, all sorts of other people that were also held in concentration camps and set to be murdered by, the state, the Nazi state, that had been voted into power. Be careful how much power you give your state, folks. There were different phases of the process of, systematic murder that they were going through. But anyway, it just really shocked me to see, because I've been to the Museum of Tolerance, I've seen, Schindler's List, I've seen photos of concentration camps and the, mass graves and all the dead bodies and the conditions that the people were in. And anyway, it was just really shocking to see that here. And it's interesting because it uses it's a very short story. It focuses on, how banged up this guy is, but after Steve and Bucky, or, Captain Bucky help him out, he actually goes free, and he who does he go to fly with? I can't remember who he goes to fly with, but he joins somebody and he keeps flying as a pilot, and he, kills lots more Nazi pilots, dogfighters, I can't remember what you call them, airmen, and, he helps the war effort in that way. And it's interesting because he is such a noble soldier, and, he suffered so much, but he's willing to go back and fight again. And I thought that story, and it was interesting. I thought that story built on top of all the other stories that were in the issue, and it really framed Cap and Bucky as like, yeah, they're this amazing, fantastical icon of, soldier fighting against this evil that, the U.S. was not involved in war with yet, except for the fact that the U.S. was on the sly supporting the Allies a little bit. On the sly. I mean, so it was, quiet. Quietish. Anyway, but like they offered this like objectified, glorified, or like perfected version of what United States military, men and women could be doing. Mostly men, let's be honest, joining in the fight against the evil dastardly Nazis and their allies. And then we have this great example of just this regular Joe who became a pilot and decided to fight because he felt it was right, and he almost gets to be framed as more heroic than Cap and Bucky. And the same thing, the Sentinels of Liberty, them and their dads get to be, because they run onto the Bund camp, which is called like Camp Rhineland or something like that, and or Camp Reich, I think is what it was. Anyway, and they attack it, and they're venerated and seen as noble and heroic. And it's just interesting to me because while there were a lot of things I really liked about this issue, about the storytelling alone, there were a lot of things that came off kind of nakedly as propaganda, and I don't know, it kind of worked, I could definitely see reading this, and I've said this before, so I won't belabor the point too much, seeing this, being there, reading these things, and then like, I'm going to go fight because it's the right thing to do, and it's the heroic thing to do. And I think nobody does that better than, let me see, what's this guy's name? Tom. Yeah, Tom, their pilot friend. Like, I really felt powerfully through these images, like, man, this guy's amazing. Like, he is very heroic, and like, I can't believe he's itching to go back and fight more, and I honestly found that to be admirable and moving, and I don't know, I felt a lot of respect for him. I thought, like, man, I know Captain Bucky are heroes here, but like, this guy's a real hero, especially because he's just a pilot. He can't do anything. He doesn't have a magic shield or a big 6 foot tall strapping guy that's going to help him out of this tough situation, except for the guy who saved him here. But I don't know, I just thought it was pretty impressive. I think the comics definitely hit its stride by now. There were some amazing things, like in the when they're fighting the Oriental sea dragon thing. Some of the cutaway art done in that is amazing. I'm pretty sure that's Kirby, because I mean, any competent artist should be able to do that. But then again, in I think Fantastic Four issue 3 or 4, he does something similar where he does a cutaway of the Baxter or the building that they're in, and it shows all these details of the building, architectural details, technological details, and it's really cool. And it just kind of made me think, oh, that's kind of a Kirby thing, unless he stole it from Simonson years later, which he could have, right? Nobody's perfect. That's what I keep saying. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up now. Thanks for sticking with me. Check out mjmunoz.com for more of my work. I'm an aspiring author who will gladly accept your financial support through coffee, or you can buy merch from my Redbubble store. Swinging Through Comics can be found on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and mjmunoz.com/STC. Relevant links are in the show notes. If you had a good time, like and share this. Subscribe and ring that bell to catch me next time I'm swinging through comics. So if you're looking at the screen here, or if you're looking at the bottom of the post or the show notes for this episode, you'll see the End of the Line for You Kami shirt, which is based on, I think, issue 2 of Spider-Man. He fights the chameleon, and he sees that he's headed over to a submarine with the hammer and sickle on it, so he's literally a communist. And I just put a little NPC Wojak kind of guy in the helicopter, and this, not Spider-Man is pulling him out of there. I thought it was kind of funny. I might work on a cap shirt or a Cap and Bucky shirt, because there's some really funny moments and scenes with Cap and Bucky in the in the first 5 or so comics that I've read so far of Captain America comics. So you can look forward to that. If you have any ideas for stuff you want to see on shirts or stickers or whatever, throw it to me. If you like my kind of rough, markery, sketchy style, we might be able to make something cool that you like. So anyway, let me know. Check it out. You can get it in a sticker, shirt, lots of different things to help me out if you like it.